How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. Jessie Bates recently quoted in an interview saying well, first of all, he loves playing with Cincinnati, loves the guys he's with, loves the team, would be happy to stay here. But he also made it loud and clear and said, hey, I'm not in a position to take $10 million off. In other words, he ain't going to take a pay cut. Even if it was a couple million, 10 million, we're assuming, obviously, we're talking long-term deal. We're not talking 10 million a year. We're talking 10 million long-term deal, which comes out to saying, hey, I'm not going to take $2.5 million off my contract a year for a 4-year contract. Essentially what you see in teams. So instead of saying, 17, 18, he won't take 14, 15, 16-ish range, which, I don't know, I'm kind of poor, I guess, but when you're like, hey, I can't take 10 million off, I'm still going to make 60 million a year, I think I'd be doing all right. I think I'd be in a position to take that off. I don't know if that was the words I'd agree with. I think the proper word is, hey, I want to get every penny I can I'm worth. I don't know if I'd say I'm not in a position to take that kind of money off, because if you're not in a position to take off 10 million, you're still to make 60 million a year. You need to hire a financial advisor, a couple of them, and you'll have the money to do it. Nonetheless, though, it's his choice, right? Jessie Bates can do what Jessie Bates wants to do. It's a business. I mean, you have to respect it as a player, just like the team. The team's got to look at this guy as a business. He's got to look at this as a business himself. I completely get it. It's his choice to make the call he wants. Obviously, as a Bengals fan, you'd love to see the guy take a pay cut, stay with the team, stick around, being the solid player he is. But it sounds like that's not something he's interested in, and you have to respect his decision there. The question now becomes, though, if you're the Bengals, do you pay this guy? Do you pay him every penny he's worth? We've seen the quotes anywhere from like 16.5 to 17.5 million. That was last offseason. Does this value go up this offseason to, again, 17.5, 18, putting him in that top 5 safety range in the league? Nearly the highest paid safety. That put him about, second or third? He was around the 18 million range. And make him, until Joe Burrow and friends get signed, and make him the highest paid player on the Bengals right now. And that is where I'm starting to really question things for Jessie Bates. First of all, when you're paying a guy that kind of money, you're paying him highest paid player on the team. You want him to be the best player on the team. You want him to be the best player on the defense. You want him to be the consensus best player on the defense. I'm not going to take no shots at Jessie Bates. I think he's a stud of a player, but I think the biggest toll you see on his defense is when DJ Reader's not playing. Or Trey Hendrickson getting that pass rush. Well, we've seen safeties go down and we've seen corners go down, and the Bengals have kind of fixed the issue and made it work still throughout the season. Even last season when Jessie Bates had a off season for Jessie Bates, this Bengals defense was really good. And we're not trying to disregard any of what Jessie Bates has done. He's been really good for these Bengals. He's done great things. But when you pay a guy best in your team money, when you pay him top 2, 3 at his position money, I think you have to be paying for a game record. You have to be, especially on the defensive side. The Von Millers or the TJ Watts, the Micah Parsons, the absolute game record, the guys that can change the game. Now, obviously, you're talking a little bit more money for guys like that, but when you're paying that kind of money for that kind of position, I think that's what you really look for. And if you don't have that kind of ability, then you start to, I guess, Troy Polamalu is where you say game record. There's other good safeties, the first guy that comes to mind. But when you're not that kind of player, then you start to question how interchangeable are you to where we might not get it, probably won't get a Jessie Bates in equivalent next year, but how much cheaper can you get of a guy like a Jessie Bates, a little bit, again, not the same talent, but an average player, above average player at the position that you might be able to pay, say, 7, 8, 9 million a year, and then you have 8, 9 million to spend somewhere else. Again, the cornerback position, we'll see what they're going to do with Eli Apple again. You can never have too many pass rushers. The offense looks pretty short up there where they attack some other position there. But again, you got to think long-term for this team. You'd love to keep T. Higgins. You'd love to keep Chase. You'd love to keep Burrow. You'd love to keep these 3 guys. I think they find a way to keep those 3 guys. I don't know if they keep both wide receivers. That'd be a good discussion. But when it's Jessie Bates, is it worth it? When you can get Dax Hill, who you drafted, and you think this guy can be a stud. Because if he can play like a stud and does the things you expect him to do, it's like, okay, again, you got all the leverage of the Bengals. You see, you let Jessie Bates walk out the door. But again, you got Von Bell's contract. You wonder, what if you put Dax Hill and Jessie Bates side by side back there? The dynamic duo and the things those two could do back there together could be pretty lethal. Your question, you want to try to keep as many pieces together on his defense as possible. And you really have to wonder, personally for me, I don't know how you bring Jermaine Pratt back at this point in time after he was caught saying what he said walking back to the locker room after Osai made that bad penalty, because that was clear as day. The guy doesn't have composure. He's not a team player. I know tempers flare, people get upset, but there's the line where tempers flare, people get upset, and you're still you don't be that kind of player where you're hateful and bashing on other teammates and making them feel bad kind of deal. You don't typically see that. Not in a Bengals locker room that's trying to build this super good culture like we've seen BJ Ho with Osai in that interview and so on and so forth. So, well, you wonder, I don't know, you haven't heard much from Pratt besides that. You wonder what happens. You worry about stuff like that, though, that creates cracks in the locker room when you have a team with the camaraderie that the Bengals, you want to try to keep these guys around. So you wonder, hey, maybe throw a little bit more money Jessie Bates' way and you go a little lighter at linebacker. And again, Osai might slide in there and do just fine next year as well. There's a lot of pieces here if you're the Bengals. I personally, it really depends. I think you want to prolong this. It really depends on what they're going to do with these other players. I wouldn't pay Jessie Bates that much. I don't think so. I think my theory at this point in time, if you're the Bengals, you're not the Cleveland Browns. You're not the Tennessee. You're not the Tennessee Titans. You're not the Indianapolis Colts. You're not one of these teams that are not like, super desirable to play at right now. A team, I call it like the Tom Brady or the Patrick Mahomes effect that Joe Burrow has on his team. There will be players that want to come and play for this football team that are good players that are willing to take on lower contracts. Maybe they're veterans or maybe they're younger players that just want to take on a lower contract because they want to win a championship. And they know going to Cincinnati under the leadership of Joe Burrow, their chances of winning a championship skyrocket. You look at Bengals, Chiefs. Honestly, I think that's the top two. Biased Bengals fans, but I think if you're a free agent, you're looking like, where's the two places I have the best chance to win a championship next year? You say Bengals and Kansas City. I know they might talk Buffalo as well, but when you say that's a lot of leverage for potentially bringing in another talented player besides Jessie Bates. I think that's the thing. If they can find another target and it's like, hey, we can replace this guy. And again, they need to replace him or Vonn Bell, obviously, because Daxton can't play two positions. That's where you say, okay, we can walk away from this. I'd love to see Jessie Bates stay, but it's a tough one, but I think he's been replaced already at Daxton. They're trying to find a middle-of-the-pack safety to play alongside him. Maybe they keep Vonn Bell. Did a nice job for the Bengals. We'll see. Love you guys' thoughts. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.